Hello there.
Welcome back, my friend.
Hello, what have we here?
Jedi, we've been expecting you.
Knew I could count on you.
Hello.
Welcome to the rebellion.
What fun!
Hey everyone, Hybrid here, and today we are taking a look at a Micro Galaxy Squadron ship. This is the BTL-B Y-Wing Starfighter. Now, I know I said in a recent video that I am pretty much done with Micro Galaxy Squadron, and I stand by that. However, I did leave myself the window to say I will cherry pick the occasional ship that extremely interests me, and the Y-Wing is my most favorite starfighter in all of Star Wars. The original trilogy, I love the exposed version, and as a kid, when we got the paneled off version and the story that it was actually Republic surplus in the original trilogy, what a cool storyline. So when they announced this Captain Rex's Y-Wing, I was super excited until I saw how they cheaped out on the figures. Not really big on that, but I will talk about that as we get into the review. So with that said, let's go ahead, dive on in, take a look at this ship, and talk about how it could have been better. Let's go. Here's the Y-Wing in the packaging. It is the standard Micro Galaxy packaging, being a ginormous bubble on a cardboard card back. In the bubble, you have the ship taken apart. It is so long when assembled, it's longer than they could position it in here. You have your two included micro figures, a picture of the ship assembled, your Micro Galaxy Squadron logo, BTL-B Y-Wing Starfighter. You got some warnings, a Bad Batch logo. That's where they cheaped out on us. Star Wars logo, Series 11 Star Wars logos on the sides. Around back, you have a hologram trading card you can cut out if you care to collect garbage, and then some images about how you assemble it and some of the removable panels and features the vehicle has, some other images of vehicles in the wave. I'm not quite sure. That is, there's what, a 1 on that wing, so that's red 1. Is that red leader? That's an interesting chase. And then the Mando N1 Starfighter apparently is being reissued, which not a bad reissue. And then this Ahsoka series Pirate Fighter, which I've seen sitting at a lot of Myers, but I found this finally at Myers on my way home from Motor City Con. Special thank you to my mom for picking this up for me. So this is a mother-sponsored video, so everyone go give your mom a hug. Let's get into it. So here's Rex's Y-Wing out of the packaging. Let's real quick take a look at the minifigures. So naturally, we do get a Phase 2 Captain Rex. He looks really nice at this 1-inch tall scale. Just very fine detailing with the blue stripes down the arms and the jag eyes on his forehead, the black of the visor and mouth with the blue striping, and then his pistols are holstered there. Looks very, very nice. Features the articulation that you find on all these micro figures where he can go into a seated position very, very nicely. Really nothing bad to say there. You can seat him into the cockpit by raising the cockpit to the side. You see there are 2 seats in there for our 2 pilots, and you just put him in a seated position. Put his arms down. He's wedged in nice and secure there. We'll close that door once we get everyone in. There is a random brown and gray astromech droid in here with some white on the arms. I guess they felt inspired to include something for some reason, but there is a droid port. I guess you can put him in. It's not very scene accurate, because this is the vehicle that Rex and Ahsoka escape the Venator in. So, there's Ahsoka's seat. And here I'm going to grab our Ahsoka figure. Where's our Ahsoka figure? Yeah, that is right. Captain Rex's Y-Wing, iconically known from escaping the Venator in the Clone Wars finale, a edge-of-your-seat moment, has you white-knuckling your popcorn bucket while you were watching this show, skipped out on an Ahsoka figure because they have not made a Season 7 Ahsoka micro figure, and then they said, hey, here's our excuse for being cheap as shit. We'll say it's a Bad Batch vehicle from that one time where Captain Rex meets the Bad Batch on Braca, and you see this thing parked way in the back of an oil painting background for like 1 second, and then never again in that entire show. They were like, yeah, it's iconic from the Bad Batch. Who gives a shit about that Clone Wars show, right? Just, this is the stuff that makes me not care about this toy line anymore. They have gotten so cheap on these. They say that you're not supposed to be collecting this for the figures. It's supposed to be for the vehicles. And I accept the vehicles are the larger draw. But I mean, come on. How do you expect me not to complain about something like that? And then, instead of repainting it yellow in the next wave to, give us the army buildable version, they've reissued Captain Rex's Y-Wing without Captain Rex in it, and it comes with a Season 7 Ahsoka and her R7 astromech droid who was gunned down in the hangar before they found the ship. Who is that? They want me to buy the same ship twice to load up one of them, and I still get 2 astromechs that don't fit in the scene. Now, I accept, because they are going to make a yellow version someday, I would have accepted not even getting this brown turd of an astromech droid that you also don't even see in the Bad Batch show. This is just made up. I would have accepted having an empty droid socket and having an Ahsoka figure, because it would have been very scene specific. I would have been A-okay with only getting 2 figures. This does not replace a Season 7 Ahsoka, in my opinion, and this should not have been a Bad Batch release. So, I don't want to spend the entire time harping on that, because otherwise it is a very nice vehicle. But Jazzwares, this is why I'm getting out of the line. Just give me what it's supposed to have. I mean, labeling it a Bad Batch vehicle just really feels like you're shortchanging us. Hey, here's our excuse as to why it's not a Clone Wars one. No one wanted a Bad Batch Y-Wing. We wanted a Clone Wars Y-Wing. Anyways, looking at this prequel era Y-Wing, it does look very nice. It has the proportions are generally correct, and the nice long nacelle engines there with the paneling that kind of fills in the void a little bit. Some nice, weathering over the entire thing. It is in a white base color with some gray and blue accents. The panel here, this is a removable panel, has gotten a bit of a heavier wash than the rest of the entire thing. That is a QC, your mileage may vary situation, but it is not bad. The blasters on the front are very rubbery, but they do stay forward generally, which I like. My episode 4 Y-Wing actually had a blaster snap off, and I was able to find it and glue it back on. It took a shelf dive. But it is nice to maybe go the rubbery route on these. Since I've personally had one break, I can attest to it's a nice thing. Flipping her over, there are 3 fold-up Y-Wings, fold-up landing gears, 1 on each nacelle, and 1 under the front of the vessel like so. Some very nice red Republic cogs on the sides of the engines there, looking very, very nice. And then this thing has a couple of removable pieces to give hints of its original trilogy flavoring, being this panel here, which comes off and shows you a lot of that piping inside of the vehicle, which, just to bring in a Rebellion era one, as you see, a lot of those finer details are there. This is in all white, however. A part of me wishes they had just painted the entire area that gray, even if it was just a solid gray. I don't recall seeing too many spaceship engines in all my time as a spaceship engine mechanic or fan of science fiction, where you see a lot of spaceships that have engines. You don't see them in white very often. But also, it's a bit of an Easter egg. Another Easter egg is this panel here being removable, only on the one side, but it does begin to remind you of the shaping of the original trilogy one. So it's kind of giving you that hint of if you start removing some panels, a very familiar ship is underneath of this. However, again, one of the charms of this is just that, it's the original trilogy shaping, but it's plated off. The original trilogy one is very exposed, and I've just always liked this finished off design. And credit where it's due, you still do get that wash on the underside and on the nacelles. To be fair, it you can't cheap out on every single thing, just the figures, apparently. But yeah, I think overall I do like how this has turned out. I think it's generally a very nice representation of the vehicle it's supposed to be. I just wish they had stocked it correctly, So at the end of the day, what do I think of the Captain Rex Y-Wing? So the ship itself, beautifully done. I mean, no complaints on the vehicle. I think the removable panels to show us some of those original trilogy features are an insane Easter egg type thing, and I think the sculpt of the vehicle has been done very, very well. My issues are just with Jazzwares and their constant insistence on just not giving us the figures that are required. Again, take away the Astromech droid. Give me the Ahsoka one. I'm not buying this ship again to get an Ahsoka figure with no Captain Rex. Like, why? Why would you... Jazzwares, why would you think anyone would be interested in such a trade? It's the worst trade deal in the history of trade deals. I'm not doing that. And I would normally like to do a bit of a size comparison between the ships, you know, in the videos. You may have noticed that got skipped over here. And that's because I don't have that many Republic vehicles. I have a couple of V-19 Torrents, but like the ARC 170, I never bought that because they shorted us on the Republic pilots there. I don't have a Republic fleet, and I would love to have a Republic fleet, and I can't get a Republic fleet because I just won't buy these if Jazzwares is just not giving us our value on this. A 1-inch micro figure does not destroy a profit margin. I refuse to accept that. And I look at this vehicle, and you know what? For the $15 line, this is a little bit large after you assemble it, hence why they had it taken apart in the packaging. But they have sold us slightly bigger things for $20 before. They have given us, you know, the Imperial Troop Transport. That was that Walmart exclusive in the beginning of the line. Slightly larger, you know, $19.99. We don't get that $20 price point super often, but point being, they have sold things at that price point. Why not this? Why not send it to us assembled? Because one minor thing you may have is just if you really, really play with it, you know, removable parts generally do get loose over time. Those nacelles, you pop them on and off a couple of times in play. They are not going to hold friction so much anymore. It would be nice if we had just gotten this in one assembled hunk with an included Ahsoka micro figure, and it had just been $20. You know, just give it to us for the $20 price point. And I wouldn't have complained. I don't think anyone will complain. And Jazzwares, this is my challenge. This is my challenge here. I will be throwing a customer service note through the website. They do generally email back and are generally pretty thoughtful in their responses. You know, I try not to be rude or mean, and I'm not a bad person. I don't get mean with people, but I do like to correspond when possible. If this gets repainted yellow as a army buildable version, it needs to come with a generic astromech droid and 2 clone pilots. If it comes with 1 clone pilot and 1 droid, it's my favorite ship. I will be a sucker and buy 1. It coming with 1 clone pilot instead of 2 clone pilots on the massable army buildable version is the difference between me buying 1 or like 8. I would love to do a Republic hangar diorama, dedicate a little shelf to having a bunch of these lined up, and I will not do it if I am getting shorted on minifigures. So that is my stance. That is my challenge. I will say it right to the Jazzwares team. They let you email to the devs right there. I will send that email after this review goes up. I just do not. I will not buy it. I will not. I hate getting out here and being so negative. Negativity is not my brand. I do not complain. So when I complain, I hope you hear me. You know, that it's like, it's not just, you know, I'm not like other channels where every video is a complain. You know, I like being happy with my toys. And I'd be a lot happier if there was an Ahsoka micro figure in the cockpit behind Captain Rex in the seat you sculpted for her. So, I don't know. That's my 2 cents. That's my rant. Thanks for listening to a guy complain. You know, do I recommend it? If you can get over the Ahsoka figure not being included. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for hanging out. I hate that it was such a ramble. May the Force be with you, and we will have better energy in the next video. Have a good day.